Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Nishit Kumar and with me is Gaurav Sharma with the evening news. The headlines. President and Prime Minister to address inaugural session of Governors Conference on National Education Policy through video conference tomorrow. Health Ministry reviews containment and management of COVID-19 in 35 districts of 6 states and union territories. COVID recovery rate improves to 77.32%. Metro services to resume from tomorrow in graded manner in Delhi, Chennai, Bengaluru, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad and Lucknow. And third, Rashtriya Poshan Maah being celebrated this month to address malnutrition among young children and women. President Ramnath Kovind and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the inaugural session of the Governors Conference on National Education Policy through video conference tomorrow. The conference, titled Role of NEP 2020 in Transforming Higher Education, is being organized by the Ministry of Education. NEP 2020 is the first education policy of the 21st century, which was announced after 34 years of the previous National Policy on Education 1986. NEP 2020 is directed towards major reforms in both school and higher education level. The new National Education Policy strives for making India into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society. It envisions an India-centric education system that contributes directly to transforming India into a global superpower. Education ministers of G20 nations have resolved to work together and share best practices in the area of education so that member countries can ensure inclusive and equitable quality education for all, even in times of COVID crisis. A virtual meeting of G20 education ministers was held yesterday to discuss and share experiences of member countries in 3 identified areas. These are education continuity in times of crisis, early childhood education and internationalization in education. Speaking on the occasion, Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank said India will continue the efforts it has taken to reform and transform its education system and mitigate the challenge posed by COVID-19 pandemic. He also said India is committed to collaborate with G20 member countries in the area of education. The education ministers adopted a communique at the end of the meeting regarding ensuring education continuity in times of crisis. The communique recognizes the value of distance and blending teaching and learning and underscore the importance of enhancing access to high-quality education, professional development for educators, digital infrastructure and content. The importance of research and data to assess the learning outcomes and quality of distance learning has also been stressed.
The Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan today held a review meeting with the health secretaries of 6 states and union territories through video conference on the containment and management of COVID in 35 districts. These 35 districts comprise Kolkata, Havra, North 24 Pargana and 24 South Pargana in West Bengal, Pune, Nagpur, Thane, Mumbai Suburban, Kolhapur, Sangli, Nashik, Ahmednagar, Raigad, Jalgaon, Solapur, Satara, Palghar, Aurangabad, Dhule and Nanded in Maharashtra, Surat in Gujarat, Puducherry, East Singhbhum in Jharkhand and all 11 districts in Delhi. Addressing the participants, Mr. Bhushan underscored the need to suppress, curb and eventually break the chain of transmission of the infectious disease by strengthening the active case search focusing on comorbids and elderly population. He advised them for strengthening the containment measures in the affected areas and scaling up the testing to decrease the positivity rates below 5%. Mr. Bhushan and the state health secretaries also discussed the detailed roadmaps and action plans for the next 1 month. India achieved a record of conducting over 10 lakh COVID tests for 4 days in a row, surpassing the initial target of conducting over 10 lakh tests. Nearly 1,652 labs in the country conducted close to 11 lakh tests in the last 24 hours. The country has witnessed significant stepping up in its COVID testing capacity in the last 5 months. From just 160 labs testing COVID samples on the 23rd of March this year, the country today has 1,027 government labs and 625 private labs. So far, with an overall testing figure of 4,88,31,145, the nation has also been able to maintain a remarkably low positivity rate below 8.5%. Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab and Madhya Pradesh have recorded a positivity rate even lower than 5%. The Health Ministry said that high levels of testing sustained over a period of time in widespread areas has enabled early diagnosis of cases and facilitated seamless isolation and hospitalization. It said this has also led to low mortality rate. The country registered the maximum number of recoveries of nearly 73,640 COVID patients in the last 24 hours. So far, around 32 lakh people in the country have recovered from the viral pandemic. The overall recovery rate has also maintained its upward trend and has now reached 77.32%. The Health Ministry has said the constant increase in the recoveries has ensured that the actual caseload of the country has reduced, and it currently comprises only 20.96% of the total positive cases. The number of recovered patients has overtaken the active cases by nearly 3.7 times. The ministry said the number of recovered patients in the country has grown over 4 times in a span of 2 months. Effective implementation of test, track and treat approach has led to higher recoveries and lower fatality. Currently, India's case fatality rate is at 1.72%. In the last 24 hours, 90,633 new cases have been reported, taking the total number of positive cases to 41,13,812. Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh together account for over 50% of the confirmed cases added in the last 24 hours in the country. Presently, the number of active corona cases in the country is 8,62,320. In the last 24 hours, 1,065 deaths have also been reported, taking the toll to 70,626.
Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, in a review meeting with Mumbai civic body top officials, directed to prioritize contact tracing and use other methods to prevent a further rise in COVID-19 cases in the metropolis. Meanwhile, to prevent deaths due to corona infections in the state, the Maharashtra Health Department is mulling over the expansion of its tele-ICU project. More from our correspondent.
Chief Minister directed the city administration to increase testing and asked officials to refrain from attributing the rise in cases to the same. Thackeray also ordered buildings with more than 10 cases to be sealed. The Chief Minister urged the civic body to take measures to help boost public confidence in the BMC's COVID care centers. Meanwhile, death rate in the city has reduced to 2.6% in September from 5.58% in June. State Health Minister Rajesh Tope today launched 3 more tele-ICU services in hospitals in Aurangabad, Jalna and Solapur. Nivedita, AIR News, Mumbai.
Karnataka Labour and Sugar Minister A. Shivarama Hebbar and his wife were tested COVID positive yesterday. In a tweet, he said that they underwent COVID test and were declared positive. As there is no symptom, they are under home isolation. Prior to him, Chief Minister B.S. Yedurappa, the leader of the opposition Siddaramaiah, Health Minister Sri Ramulu, the Congress State President D.K. Shivakumar, Tourism Minister C.T. Ravi, Forest Minister Anand Singh, Agriculture Minister B.C. Patil were among those infected with COVID-19 virus in the state. The state reported 9,319 new COVID cases today and 95 deaths. At the same time, 9,575 people were discharged after being cured of the viral infection. The state conducted 74,384 tests for detecting the coronavirus. Bengaluru Urban is leading the index with 2,824 new cases and 38 deaths today. Kerala, for the first time, recorded over 3,000 COVID cases in a day as 3,082 positive cases were confirmed in the state today. More from our correspondent.
Among the new cases, 2,844 persons contracted the disease through contact. 2,196 recoveries were also reported today. The total active COVID case in Kerala rose to 22,676. 10 more deaths due to COVID were also confirmed, taking the death toll in the state to 347. Meanwhile, the Kochi Metro will resume its service from tomorrow as part of Unlock 4 under strict COVID protocol. The Kochi Metro Rail Limited has also temporarily slashed their ticket fares and announced special timetable for the first 2 days of its service. Meanwhile, heavy rain continues in Kerala on account of the depression formed in Arabian Sea. Met Department predicts heavy rain across the state for coming 5 days. Fisher folks are warned from venturing into the sea in Kerala Lakshadweep coast. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
In Puducherry, the COVID recovery rate has reached 68.29%, while the fatality rate is 1.84% as on today. According to the COVID-19 status report released by the Health Department today, 478 more people were tested positive for coronavirus infections and 16 died in the Union Territory, leaving 5,086 active cases. 525 people were discharged after recovery. 1,813 people are being treated in various hospitals and another 3,273 positive cases are under home isolation. So far, 17,032 people have been infected by the virus, of which 11,632 have been treated and discharged and 314 died, leaving 5,086 active cases.
In Nagaland, 50 new positive cases of COVID-19 have been reported today, taking the total confirmed cases to 4,178. The State Health Department said that out of the new cases, 41 were from the armed forces, 5 from traced contacts, 3 from returnees and 1 from frontline workers. Meanwhile, 82 people recovered today, and with this, the state's recovery rate has improved to 83.80%. The state has now 657 active cases, while 3,501 patients have recovered so far. In Manipur, 139 people, including 18 personnel from the Central Armed Police Force, have tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, taking the total number of positive cases to 7,022. Meanwhile, 2 persons died from COVID-19 and other comorbid conditions, thus increasing the total fatality due to the pandemic in the state to 38. On the other hand, 189 people were discharged from hospitals and COVID care centers in the past 24 hours, registering the recovery rate at 73.54% today. The total number of recovered and discharged cases is 5,164, while the number of active cases is 1,820 in Manipur. In our series, Experts Speak on All India Radio, we bring you the views of the leading medical experts on COVID-19. Talking to AIR News, Director at AIIMS in Delhi, Dr. Randeep Buderia advised people to aggressively follow the social distancing and hand hygiene norms to check the spread of the COVID-19 infection.
Regular hand washing should be done. You should avoid going to crowded places because if someone in the crowd is coughing and has the infection, he can spread to others. Then if any member in your family has fever, cough, cold, he should stay at home and avoid going out so that he doesn't spread the infection to other people in the community.
The News Services Division of All India Radio in its bilingual live phone-in program today will bring you a special discussion program on COVID-19. Dr. Rajinder K. Dhamija, neurologist, Lady Harding Medical College, will participate in the discussion. This can be heard tonight on FM Gold channel and additional frequencies from 9:30 p.m. onwards. Listeners can ask questions to the experts on the toll-free telephone number 1-800-115-767. You can also ask questions on the telephone number 011-2331-4444 and post queries on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts by using hashtag AskAIR. This program will also be available on our website newsonair.com and on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. The Bureau of Pharma PSUs of India, BPPI, the implementing agency of Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana, PMBJP, clocked appreciable sales despite the testing time of COVID lockdown. The turnover of BPPI in the first quarter of 2020-21 registered 146.59 crore rupees as compared to 75.48 crore rupees achieved in the first quarter of 2019-20. In the month of July this year, BPPI has added a sales of 48.66 crore rupees. The total sales up to the 31st of July this year stood at 191.90 crore rupees. Our correspondent has filed this report.
The Jana Aushadhi Kendras remained functional during lockdown and maintained operations as part of their commitment to ensure uninterrupted availability of essential medicines. They sold about 15 lakhs face masks, 80 lakhs tablets of hydroxychloroquine and 100 lakhs paracetamol tablets, which saved around 1,260 crore rupees of the citizens. Present basket of medicines sold by these Kendras consists of 1,250 medicines and 204 surgical instruments. The target is set to enhance it up to 2,000 medicines and 300 surgical products by the end of 31st March 2024. The cost of Jana Aushadhi medicines is cheaper at least by 50% and in some cases by 80 to 90% of the market price of branded medicines. As per the official data, it has provided direct source of sustainable employment for more than 11,600 educated unemployed youth of the country by engaging them in the scheme. Anupam Mish, AI News, Delhi.
You're listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. President and Prime Minister to address inaugural session of Governors' Conference on National Education Policy through video conference tomorrow. Health Ministry reviews containment and management of COVID-19 in 35 districts of 6 states and union territories. COVID recovery rate improves to 77.32%. Metro services to resume from tomorrow in graded manner in Delhi, Chennai, Bengaluru, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad and Lucknow. And third Rashtriya Poshan Mah being celebrated this month to address malnutrition among young children and women. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Metro services will resume from tomorrow in a graded manner in Delhi, Chennai, Bengaluru, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad and Lucknow. Passengers will have to follow preventive measures against COVID-19 by maintaining social distancing and wearing face masks. In the first stage, Delhi Metro services will operate in 2 shifts, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Normal operations will start from the 12th of this month. Metro stations and entry-exit gates in containment zones will be closed. Only asymptomatic persons will be allowed to travel after thermal screening at entry into the stations. Sanitizers will be made available at entry points of stations for use by passengers. Lucknow Metro is all set to resume operations from tomorrow with state-of-the-art facilities for the safest travel experience. Lucknow Metro has laid special emphasis on contactless travel, sanitization, social distancing, hygiene and cleanliness. Various rigorous steps have been undertaken to ensure a smooth, safe, secure and convenient commuting experience to the passengers. MD UP MRC Kumar Keshav has said that Lucknow Metro will resume its services at full capacity. He said metro trains and station premises will be sanitized at regular intervals to ensure maximum safety to passengers. More from our correspondent.
Tokens and smart cards both will be functional for commuting. There will be social distancing markings and signage at all stations to ensure adequate gap among passengers while queuing up near ticket counters, ticket vending machines and security check frisking points. Social distancing markings have been done on alternate seats to maintain sufficient gap between passengers inside the train. Lucknow Metro will operate with normal timings as earlier as 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and with full capacity of 16 trains which will run with an interval of 5 minutes 30 seconds. The trains will stop at every station and masks will be mandatory, which will be provided in case any passenger forgets to bring it along with him. Normally, 2 gates will be functional at every metro station with no separate gates for entry and exit. It will be mandatory to sanitize hands and sanitizers will be available at every gate and temperature of every passenger will be taken. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
The third Rashtriya Poshan Mah is being celebrated this month to address malnutrition among young children and women. The objective of the Poshan Mah is to encourage Jan Bhagidari to ensure health and nutrition for everyone. Women and Child Development Ministry said the Poshan Mah is celebrated every year under Poshan Abhiyan, which was launched in 2018. Considering the prevalent COVID situation in the country, the ministry is encouraging all stakeholders to use digital platforms for celebrating Poshan Mah. The importance of nutrition was recently emphasized by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the 68th edition of his Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio on the 30th of last month. The Prime Minister drew attention towards the role played by nutrition in helping children and students to attain their optimum potential. He also noted the efforts made during the past few years, especially in villages, where public participation in Nutrition Week and Nutrition Month is converting nutrition awareness into a mass movement.
न्यूट्रिशन के इस आंदोलन में पीपल पार्टिसिपेशन भी बहुत जरूरी है। जन भागीदारी ही इसको सफल करती है। पिछले कुछ वर्षों में इस दिशा में देश में काफी प्रयास किए गए हैं। खासकर हमारे गांवों में इसे जन भागीदारी से जन आंदोलन बनाया जा रहा है। पोषण सप्ताह हो, पोषण माह हो, इनके माध्यम से ज्यादा जागरूकता पैदा की जा रही है।
In Assam, various steps are being taken to celebrate the Poshan Mah by the Social Welfare Department. Talking to AIR News, State Project Director of the Poshan Abhiyan, Partha Pratim Majumdar, said that emphasis is being given on 5 activities. He said identification and tracing of malnourished children would be done. Majumdar also said that a Nutri Garden is to be set up in every Anganwadi centers in the state. Under this, 5,000 rupees will be given initially to 2,300 centers this month to set up Nutri Gardens. He also said that digital panchayat, online competition and webinars will also be organized during the Poshan Mah.
We will be organizing digital panchayat. Since community interaction is not possible on a very mass scale, we are going to have a series of webinars with various stakeholders in this field. Online competitions, we will have essay competition, we will have e-quiz competition, and we will have a meme competition among school children divided into 2 groups. And the Department of Education has taken the lead in this, and we are extending our complete support to them.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have expressed grief over the demise of Edanir Matsir Keshavananda Bharati. In a tweet, Mr. Naidu condoled the death of Edanir Matsir, describing him as a rare blend of philosopher, classical singer, and a cultural icon. The Vice President said Keshavananda Bharati's patronage of Yakshagana was crucial in reviving this traditional theatre form in Karnataka. Mr. Naidu said he is best known for his role in the landmark Supreme Court judgment which held that the basic structure of the Constitution cannot be altered. In a tweet, Prime Minister Modi said the country will always remember Keshavananda Bharati for his contributions towards community service and empowering the downtrodden. Mr. Modi said he was deeply attached to India's rich culture and the great Constitution. The Prime Minister said Keshavananda Bharati will continue to inspire generations. The 79-year-old seer died at the Mutt in Kerala's Kasaragod due to age-related ailments.
The CBI is questioning Meetu Singh, the sister of the late actor Sushant Singh Rajput, at the DRDO guest house in Mumbai in connection with the death of the actor. Earlier in the day, Rajput's business manager Shruti Modi, his talent manager Jaya Saha and cook Neeraj also reached the guest house in suburban Kalina, where the probe team is stationed. Yesterday, a team of the CBI visited Rajput's flat in Bandra as part of its investigation into his death. More from our correspondent.
Actress Riya Chakrabarti, prime accused in the Sushant Singh Rajput case, left the Narcotics Control Bureau office this evening after 6 hours of interrogation by the agency's officials. She has been summoned by the NCB tomorrow to join the investigation. Riya, who is accused of abetting Rajput's suicide, appeared before the NCB in the drugs case linked to the actor's death today around noon. Before Riya reached the office of NCB, a lawyer, Satish Mane Shinde, released a statement saying that the actress was ready for arrest and termed the whole episode as witch hunt. It also said that she has not approached any court for anticipatory bail. Her brother, Shouvik Chakrabarti, Rajput's house manager Samuel Miranda, and personal staff member Dipesh Sawant have been arrested by the NCB. Sawant, on the other hand, has been remanded to custody of the Narcotics Control Bureau till 9th of September by the court today. Kunal Shinde, AIR News, Mumbai.
The Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar will chair a webinar tomorrow on the first ever International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. Mr. Javadekar will also review the progress of activities under the National Clean Air Programme NCAP during the course of the webinar. The webinar will be joined by Principal Secretaries of the Urban Development Departments and Environment Departments of 28 states and 8 union territories. The Minister of State for Space, Dr. Jitendra Singh, said that the launch of Chandrayaan-3 may now take place somewhere in early 2021. Chandrayaan-3 will be a mission repeat of Chandrayaan-2 and will include a lander and a rover similar to that of Chandrayaan-2 but will not have an orbiter. Dr. Singh also said that meanwhile preparations are on for India's first ever human space mission Gaganyaan, he said constraints due to the COVID pandemic led to some disruptions in the plan for Gaganyaan, but efforts are going on to stick to the timeline of around 2022.
Government has expanded the reach and support to artisans involved in agarbatti making to make India Atmanirbhar in agarbatti industry. Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises MSME said government is continuously supporting the artisans through training, raw material, marketing and financial support. The ministry said 400 automatic agarbatti making machines and additional 500 pedal operated machines will be given to self-help groups and individuals across the country. The Mysuru Railway Museum in Karnataka narrates the evolution of Indian Railways by creating a captivating and experiential atmosphere complementing heritage locomotives and carriages that reminds one of a bygone era. For the AIR listeners, the Divisional Railway Manager of Mysuru, Aparna Garg, has shared details about the Railway Museum in Mysuru.
This is a 40-years-old museum. It was in extremely dilapidated condition. It was virtually just a collection of few locomotives in an area. Now, what we have given is a complete makeover, and it is basically a museum experience. There is an open amphitheater, an audio-visual experience, there is an experiential element. So there are galleries which are dedicated to signaling and evolvement, track evolvement, stamp collection on railways from the world over that has been put there.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh held a bilateral meeting with his Iranian counterpart, Brigadier General Amir Hatami, last evening. Mr. Singh was on a transit halt in Tehran en route from Moscow to New Delhi. The meeting between the two ministers took place in a cordial and warm atmosphere. Both the leaders emphasized upon the age-old cultural, linguistic and civilizational ties between India and Iran. They discussed ways to take forward bilateral cooperation and exchanged views on regional security issues, including peace and stability in Afghanistan. In US Open tennis, Indo-Canadian pair of Rohan Bopanna and Denis Shapovalov beat German pair Kevin Krawietz and Andreas Mais to reach men's doubles quarterfinals in New York. Bopanna is the lone surviving Indian in the tournament after the exits of Sumit Nagal and Divij Sharan. In women's singles, Serena Williams came back from a slow start to beat Sloane Stevens 2-6, 6-2, 6-2 in the US Open's third round. She will face number 15 Maria Sakkari of Greece in the fourth round.
The Delhi government's 10-week anti-dengue campaign commenced today. The 10 Hafte 10 Baje 10 Minute campaign seeks to build awareness about prevention of vector-borne disease. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said that like last time, 2 crore people of Delhi will join hands and work together to fight against dengue. Now, let us take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. The national capital Delhi will have generally cloudy sky with light rain. It will have a minimum temperature of 23 degrees Celsius and maximum of 36 degrees. In Mumbai, there will be generally cloudy sky with light rain. The minimum temperature will be 26 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 34 degrees. Chennai will have generally cloudy sky with light rain or drizzle. The temperature will hover between 26 and 33 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will witness partly cloudy sky with possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm. The minimum temperature in the metropolis will be around 28 degrees Celsius while the maximum will be 36 degrees. On to the north, in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature will be 26 degrees Celsius in Jammu, while the maximum will be around 34 degrees. The city will have partly cloudy sky. In Srinagar, the minimum temperature will be around 18 degrees, while the maximum will be 30 degrees. The city will have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Ladakh will have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. The temperature will hover between 16 and 27 degrees Celsius. In Gilgit, the temperature will hover between 14 and 28 degrees Celsius. It will have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. In Muzaffarabad, there will be mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. The temperature will hover between 21 and 31 degrees Celsius. And now, before we close, the headlines once again. President and Prime Minister to address the inaugural session of Governors' Conference on National Education Policy through video conference tomorrow. Health Ministry reviews containment and management of COVID-19 in 35 districts of 6 states and union territories. COVID recovery rate improves to 77.32%. Metro services to resume from tomorrow in graded manner in Delhi, Chennai, Bengaluru, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad and Lucknow, and the third Rashtriya Poshan Mah being celebrated this month to address malnutrition among young children and women. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.